Between what happens to you and what you decide to do next, there's a brief, invisible, yet decisive moment. Most people simply rush past it. They react with speed and emotion without a second thought, as if their nervous system is controlling everything. The Stoic, however, does not live this way. He refuses to let the world push buttons in his mind as if he were a machine. He takes a pause, observes the situation, and then responds not from a place of panic, but from a position of power, you see. A reaction is simple. It's instinctual. It's what occurs when you allow the outside world to control your internal state, a sharp word, an abrupt change. A moment of disrespect and, just like that, you're no longer thinking, you're just flinching. But a response is something else entirely. It's considered and grounded, born not of fear, but of clarity. This is the art the Stoics perfected. Not controlling the world itself, but mastering how they met it. Because within that tiny space, in that sacred pause between a stimulus and your action, lies your freedom. It's the freedom to select a better response, the freedom to stay still when every part of you wants to lash out, and the freedom to rise above the storm instead of being consumed by it. This episode is about taking back that space, about training yourself not to react to life, but to respond with life, with vision, with strength, and with wisdom. In doing so, you transform not just your feelings, but the very person you become. Point 1. Reaction is impulse. Response is power hour, moving through your day when something suddenly hits you. A rude text, a disrespectful glance, an unexpected shift in plans. Before your mind can even fully register what has occurred, your body is already reacting. The urge to defend, explain, or retaliate takes over. This is the moment where most people lose themselves. In a fraction of a second, they cede control not to the situation, but to the emotion it sparked. That is what reaction is. A surrender that feels like strength. In the moment, it's sharp, immediate, and charged with energy. But it often leaves destruction in its wake to your peace, your relationships, and your sense of self. Worse still, it reinforces a damaging habit. When I feel, I must act. The Stoics, however, had a different perspective. They understood that true strength begins after the initial feeling. Not in the fire of emotion, but in the space between the spark and the decision. That space is sacred. It's what distinguishes a wild impulse from a conscious response. It's so small you might miss it. But if you can slow down and become aware of that gap, you'll have a profound realization. You are not your reaction. You are the one who observes it. That awareness by itself can change everything. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't speaking from a place of detachment. He was in the midst of wars, betrayals, and immense pressure. Still, he knew the true battle is fought internally, not externally. Responding is an art. It's not silence from a place of weakness, but stillness born of wisdom. It signifies you've trained your nervous system to resist being hijacked by every event that passes. It means you have learned to anchor yourself, not in what was said or done, but in how you decide to carry yourself through it. So when something triggers you, the question isn't, how do I fight this? The question becomes, how do I want to show up in this moment? The plan that fell apart no longer determines your worth. A moment of chaos transforms into an opportunity to practice mastery, not to lose it. Let's be real. No one ever regrets pausing. While overwhelmed, a reaction is expensive, but a response is powerful because it's deliberate. It's not about suppressing your feelings, but about redirecting them. Time, the pressure builds. Pause, breathe, watch the reaction surface, and let it go. Then, select your response like an artist choosing a brushstroke, not with urgency, but with intention. It's in the quiet clarity behind your choices. That is how a Stoic lives, not at the mercy of the world. But in mastery of the self too, slow down your nervous system. Most people see clarity as a mindset, but clarity is first a state of being. No amount of wisdom or philosophy can penetrate a nervous system that is trapped in survival mode. When adrenaline hijacks your body, when your breath is shallow and your heart is pounding, your brain isn't concerned with stoicism. It only wants safety. It's not asking, what is the wisest course of action here? It's screaming, how do I escape, defend, attack, or control? This is why so many of our regrets are born not from thought, but from tension. The Stoics lacked our modern neuroscience, but they understood the principle perfectly. Calm is the foundation of control. Epictetus reminded us that no one is free who is not master of themselves, and self-mastery starts with regulation. It begins the moment you notice the tightness in your chest, the clenching of your jaw, or the heat in your cheeks. And instead of speeding up, you pause. You slow your breathing. You reconnect with your body. Because here is the truth. Most of your worst reactions don't stem from what happened, but from how your body interpreted what happened. And interpretation is dictated by your state. It will come from the storm inside you. Learning to slow your nervous system is one of the most underrated Stoic disciplines. We often picture the Stoic as someone who remains still in the face of chaos. That stillness is not just emotional, it's physical. It's in the breath, the posture, the choice to wait before speaking, the decision to move slowly when every fiber of your being wants to rush. This is a skill, and it can be trained. The next time you feel triggered, don't try to force your mind. To be calm, begin with your body. Breathe deeply through your nose. Ground your feet on the floor. Unclench your fists. Your body will believe what you teach it consistently. When you train your system to remain calm during difficult moments, you expand your power. You widen that space between stimulus and response, making room for wisdom to enter. Most importantly, you cease to be someone who is easily swayed by every external disturbance. Because the Stoic understands that power isn't found in controlling others, it's in calming yourself. A calm body fosters a clear mind, and a clear mind makes strong choices. It's not just philosophy, it's physiology. Every time you slow your nervous system, you're not just calming down, you're taking your power back. 3. Time reveals the truth of action. In the heat of a moment, truth is rarely seen. Emotions surge, thoughts race, and instincts take over. Yet, it is in these very moments that we are most tempted to act quickly, harshly, and without thinking. That's the paradox. The more urgent a situation feels, the more crucial it is to pause. Time is not your adversary, it is your ally. Time is what uncovers what impulse tries to conceal. You've likely seen this in your own life. A message arrives that feels disrespectful. Your chest tightens and your fingers hover over the keyboard, poised to fire back. But if you just wait a little while, the tone softens, not the sender's, but your own. What felt like an attack might just be a misunderstanding. What appeared to be a betrayal may reveal itself as someone else's fear, not your failure. That is the function of time. It is a mirror that clarifies, not one that distorts. The Stoics understood this deeply. But because they knew that truth doesn't come wrapped in emotion, it arrives in silence, in stillness, and with distance from the heat. As Seneca once said, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. That restraint, that waiting, is not weakness. It is wisdom. In action, it's a faith and perspective. It's the capacity to say, I don't need to understand everything right now to act wisely later. We exist in a world obsessed with speed. Instant replies, instant judgments, instant justice. But the majority of our mistakes come not from a lack of action, but from action that was too fast, too reactive, and too driven by ego, fear, pride, or insecurity. In that race, we lose sight of what truly matters. We act to win arguments, but lose relationships. We prove a point, but erode trust. We speak too soon and silence the truth that was still taking shape within us. Time provides us with space, and in that space, we not only see others more clearly, but we also see ourselves. We notice the narrative we were spinning in our heads, the assumptions we held, and the fears that were fueling our sense of urgency. When you can see those things, you don't just choose a better action. You become a better person. You are no longer living at the mercy of emotional weather. You've constructed a shelter within yourself. Letting time guide your actions doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time. It means trusting that clarity will emerge if you don't rush to meet it with noise. It means understanding that not everything requires a response, and some things only deserve one after you've given them space to breathe. There is also a hidden power in letting others reveal themselves over time. People will show you their true character not in a single moment, but across many. If you react too quickly, you miss the pattern. But if you observe, wait, and reflect, you learn. And that knowledge protects your energy, your peace, and your purpose. So, the next time you feel compelled to act, pause. Ask yourself, what will this look like in an hour, in a day, in a week? If the answer changes, so should your sense of urgency. Because time doesn't lie. It simply asks that you wait long enough for the lie to crumble on its own. And the person who lets time speak first will always have the last, and often the best. Word for step back before stepping in there is a moment right before we act where a choice still exists, narrow space between emotion and motion, between instinct and decision. Most people rush right past it. They jump in, speak up, and push forward. But the Stoic learns to step back before stepping in because distance doesn't equate to disengagement. It signifies clarity. When something challenges you, an insult, a setback, a tough situation, the impulse is to assert yourself right away, to defend, correct, or fix. But what if that very impulse is the trap? What if the speed of your reaction isn't a sign of control, but a sign of being controlled? Stepping back is not about running away. Marcus Aurelius often told himself to return to himself. He was convinced that only from within, away from the world's noise, could a wise decision truly surface. So, when the world pulls you to react, you must first pull inward. You breathe, you observe, and you assess not just the situation, but your own internal state. Are you calm? Are you clear? Or are you being fueled by ego, pride, anger, or fear? Because if you don't know what's driving you, your next action might lead you further from the person you aim to be. A quick response might fulfill your need to feel in control, but a thoughtful one is what actually gives you control. This is where the Stoic mindset transitions from an idea to a daily practice, a discipline. You learn to create space between the stimulus and your response. You train your mind to zoom out, to see not just the immediate event, but the larger pattern. You learn to ask not, how can I win this moment? But what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? And when you do that, something shifts. You begin to respond from a place of alignment, not agitation. You speak less, but with greater impact. You act more slowly, but with more strength. You stop being thrown about by every wave, and instead become the shoreline steady, unmoved, and observant. Consider how many mistakes in your life were made not from a lack of intelligence, but from a lack of a pause. A fight escalated because you spoke too quickly. A poor decision was made because you didn't wait for the complete picture. An opportunity was missed because you rushed in without seeing clearly. All of those outcomes could have been prevented with a simple step back. And when you take that step, don't just observe the situation. Observe yourself within it. Where are you being pulled? What is this moment attempting to teach you? What version of yourself is being put to the test? The more aware you become, the less reactive you will be. And that is the true power of Stoicism. It doesn't promise a life free of storms. It provides you with the tools to stop becoming one yourself. So before you step in, slow down. Anchor yourself. Choose who you are before you choose what to do. Because when you master the pause, you master the outcome. And no one, not even the chaos outside, can take that power from you. 5. Reactivity is a loss of control. Reactivity feels like control, right up until you realize you've lost it. It creeps in through a sense of urgency, disguised as strength, decisiveness, or self-respect. But if you examine it closely, you'll see it is none of those things. It's not clarity speaking. It's emotion hijacking the steering wheel. The instant you allow anger, insecurity, or ego to speak for you, you are no longer leading yourself. Epictetus said, it's not events that disturb people. It's their judgments about them. But when you are reactive, there is no room for judgment, only instinct. Something occurs, and before you're even aware of it, you're already deep in the thick of it. A harsh word escalates into a fight. A minor inconvenience ruins your whole day. A single glance from someone triggers a storm of interpretation. That is not awareness, it is automatic behavior. And automatic behavior is how we become enslaved to the external world. At its core, reactivity is the inability to pause, and that pause is everything. It's where growth occurs. It's where you reclaim the power to decide, What kind of person do I want to be right now? Without that pause, you are merely reacting to life like a pinball, bouncing from one emotion to the next, moment to moment, with no direction or discipline. You might feel like you're asserting yourself, but what you're actually doing is exposing your lack of control. Now, think about the strongest people you have ever known, truly strong people. Not the loud, aggressive, or controlling ones, but those who are grounded, calm under pressure, and clear when others are in chaos. Do they shout? Do they panic? Without losing yourself, every time you react without reflection, you give your peace away. You hand it over to the moment, to someone else's behavior, to a trigger that might not even be about you. And then we wonder why we feel so off balance, why we regret what we said, why we wish we could turn back time and do things differently. But the Stoic knows there's a better path, not by suppressing emotions, but by mastering them, not by pretending you don't have feelings, but by learning how to feel without being consumed. You allow the emotion to rise, but you don't let it make the decision. You watch it like a wave. You don't chase it, and you don't resist it. You let it come, and more importantly, you let it go. This is where discipline becomes vital. To sense your breath shortening and then to do something radically different. From what your body wants, you pause, you breathe, you return to yourself. You remind your mind, this is a test. I don't need to pass it with rage. I pass it by not being moved. Because what happens next defines who you become, not just how the world perceives you, but how you perceive yourself. Every time you choose not to react, you are reclaiming your integrity. You are proving to yourself that you are not a puppet of the world. You are the author of your actions. With practice, this becomes your default setting. You don't chase after every insult. You don't explain yourself to every critic. You don't rise to every provocation. Not because you are passive, but because you have outgrown the need to prove anything to people who are not grounded themselves. That is freedom. That is mastery. That is Stoicism lived in real time. So remember this. Just because you feel something, it doesn't mean you must act on it. Just because someone provokes you, it doesn't mean they are entitled to your reaction. Hold your response as if it's sacred, because it is. 6. Responding reflects wisdom. Wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't interrupt. Wisdom moves slowly. It listens more than it speaks. It waits before it acts. In a world where noise is constant and speed is praised, responding thoughtfully is a rare and revolutionary act. The Stoics didn't just teach this, they embodied it. How you respond to life, especially during difficult times, is how you train your mind to perceive reality with clarity. You can be brilliant and still be impulsive. You can be educated and still be reactive. But if you cannot slow yourself down long enough to respond with clarity, then all that knowledge is like a sword in trembling hands. Think about how many regrets are born not from ignorance. Carry comes not from what happened, but from how we responded to what happened. To respond wisely means you have done the inner work. It means you have questioned your assumptions, unhooked yourself from your ego, and trained your nervous system not to explode at the first sign of a threat. People can feel it. They may not be able to articulate why they trust your words, but they do, because something in you is rooted, and roots don't flinch in the wind. A wise response is not just about being polite. It's about being grounded in something deeper than emotion. It's knowing that not every problem is yours to solve. Sometimes wisdom is walking away. Sometimes it's saying no. Sometimes that single line contains the entire philosophy. When someone confronts you with chaos, respond with calm. When they act from a place of pride, respond with humility. When they try to provoke you, do not let them succeed, not because you are weak, but because you are not available for their drama. You have chosen a higher game. And yes, sometimes it is difficult. Your body wants to fire back, your mind wants to defend itself, and your pride wants to win. But you must ask yourself, win what exactly? What do you truly gain by lowering yourself to their level? What do you lose by remaining centered? Because if you measure your worth by how often you respond wisely, not by how often you win arguments, then you are already ahead. So train yourself daily, in small moments. Every time you respond with clarity instead of chaos, you prove that your mind belongs to you and no one else. And perhaps that is what true wisdom is. Not knowing everything, but knowing yourself deeply enough to choose peace, even when it's hard. 7. Breath is the bridge. There is a moment a moment between impulse and action, between the rise of anger and the words that leave your mouth, between panic and the first step toward something you will later regret. And in that space, there exists a secret that most people ignore. Your breath. It is always with you, always waiting, always offering you a path back to clarity. Breath is not just air, it is awareness. It is the pause that creates the difference between a reaction and a response. The Stoics didn't write about the breath in modern scientific language, but they lived its truth. They knew that to master yourself, you must first master your state, and no tool brings you into the present moment like your breath. When your thoughts are racing, your breath becomes shallow. When fear grips you, your chest constricts. When anger floods your system, your breathing becomes fast and erratic. It interrupts the downward spiral. It slows the world down just enough for you to return to who you are, not who the moment is trying to make you become. It is the anchor that grounds you when your mind is adrift. It is the signal to your nervous system that you are safe, that you are in control, and that you are not at the mercy of your environment. In today's world, so loud, so rushed, but the Stoic knows that all you truly need is a breath. It's not about a 5-minute meditation session every morning, although that can help. It's about the micro moments that half-second before you send the text, you'll regret. If you train yourself to return to your breath in those moments, you won't just change your day, you will change your life. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And what fuels that imagination? A mind that has lost touch with the present, a mind that is not breathing with awareness. But when you return to your breath, you return to reality. And more importantly, you return to yourself so. The next time you feel it rising, the pulse quickening, the heat in your face, the rush to speak stop, inhale slowly, exhale fully. Let that breath carry the emotion out of your body, not into your behavior. You will be amazed at how many battles are avoided, how many regrets are spared, and how much peace you preserve simply by breathing first. It sounds simple, but the deepest truths often are. 8. Anchor into observation. Imagine you are standing on a shore, watching the waves crash. Now, imagine your emotions are those waves, your thoughts are those clouds passing overhead, and you are the shore. You are the sky. You are not the wave, and you are not the cloud. The moment you grasp this, you become free. Observation is the beginning of freedom. It doesn't mean you detach from life in a cold manner, pretending not to feel. It means you create space between what happens and what you do next. And that space, though invisible, is the birthplace of all inner strength. The Stoics knew this. They practiced it daily because observation is not a talent. It is a habit, a cultivated muscle of the mind. Most people live on autopilot. Something happens and they react. A word is spoken and they respond without thinking. But the Stoic watches first. He does not suppress. He studies. He does not escape. He examines. And that moment of observation becomes his anchor. It holds him steady when everything else is pulling at him. To observe is to take back control. It's standing just one step back from your thoughts, just one breath away from your emotions, and asking, what is this, really? Is it fear? Is it ego? Is it an old wound trying to speak through today's voice? When you ask these questions, you begin to see through the illusion. Not every feeling is a truth. Not every thought is a fact. When your pride has been wounded, and when silence feels like defeat. But this is where strength is forged, in the ability to say, before I act, I will observe. Before I accuse, I will listen. Before I conclude, I will reflect. This observational mindset doesn't just make you more peaceful, it makes you more precise in how you speak, in what you allow, and in the boundaries you establish, because clarity lives in stillness. And the more you watch without reacting, but that is all noise. When judgment whispers in your ear, observe. When emotion flares, observe. Do nothing at first, just watch, and you will notice that the things that seem so urgent begin to dissolve. The feelings that screamed for your attention fade away, and you remain calm, grounded, and awake. We cannot escape it. Every day requires choices, decisions, and movements, whether forward or backward. But there is a critical distinction between acting and overreacting, a difference the Stoics deeply understood. To act wisely is to align your decisions with reason, clarity, and purpose. To overreact is to be governed by impulse, emotion, and momentary chaos. When a challenge appears, your first impulse might be to explode angrily, loudly, aggressively. This reaction may feel powerful. It might momentarily grant you a sense of control or release, but it comes with a significant cost. Overreaction obscures judgment, harms relationships, and drains your energy. It scatters your focus, making future decisions more difficult. In short, it weakens you. The Stoic approach is almost counterintuitive in our fast-paced, highly emotional culture. It isn't about denying your feelings or suppressing your humanity. Instead, it's about tempering those feelings, delaying the impulse to respond until you can choose a measured action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This was his reminder to himself, to respond not to impulse, but to reason and virtue. Overreaction is frequently triggered by pride, fear, or a wounded ego. When someone insults you, it's easy to lash back. When you encounter injustice, it's tempting to shout louder than necessary. When stress accumulates, the smallest irritation can erupt into a storm. But what the Stoics teach us is that the storm inside does not have to command the storm outside. Your response can be calm, deliberate, and powerful, even when every part of you is screaming to do otherwise. Consider this: how many conflicts in your life have escalated because someone or you overreacted? How many relationships have weakened due to words spoken in anger or haste? How many opportunities were squandered because a moment of composure was traded for a moment of rashness? These are the hidden costs of overreaction. To act without overreacting, you must cultivate self-awareness and discipline. It starts with identifying your triggers, the situations, words, or actions that push your buttons. Then, you train yourself to pause, to breathe, to step back mentally and physically from the moment. This pause forges the crucial space to choose a response rather than launch a reaction. This space is your power. With practice, the pause grows longer and your awareness becomes sharper. You learn that sometimes the best action is no immediate action at all. Sometimes the wisest move is to listen, to wait, to hold your peace. Strength is not always loud. It is often silent. The strongest individuals don't always raise their voices. They know when to conserve their energy and when to engage. The Stoics also remind us that not every battle is ours to fight. Overreacting wastes precious energy on conflicts that do not align with our values or goals. Wisdom lies in discernment, choosing which battles deserve your attention and which merit your calm absence. Moreover, acting without overreacting means embracing responsibility. When you respond with composure, you demonstrate mastery over yourself. You show that you are not a slave to circumstance, but an architect of your life. This kind of strength builds trust in others and confidence within yourself. Imagine the transformation in your daily life. If you replaced every angry outburst with a measured action, if every moment of frustration was met with patience, every insult with dignity, and every setback with resilience, not only would your peace deepen, but your influence would also grow. People are naturally drawn to those who remain steady in the midst of chaos, the calm in the storm. This is the essence of Stoic action: deliberate, virtuous, and wise. So, the next time you feel the urge to react explosively, remember that you have a choice. You can act with intention or overreact with impulse. The path of the Stoic is clear. Choose action, choose calm, choose power. Because true mastery is not found in controlling the world outside, but in mastering the world within. 10. The space between stimulus and response is freedom. There is a moment, a brief and almost imperceptible gap between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. It is a space so small that most people don't even realize it's there, yet it holds the very key to your freedom. The Stoics taught that within this space lies the power to decide your path, your peace, and ultimately, your life. Think of the daily provocations you encounter: a harsh word from a colleague, an abrupt change in plans, a frustrating traffic jam. Your initial impulse might be to react instantly, to flare up, to complain, to let your emotions guide your actions. That impulse is natural, It's primal, but it is also unconscious. And unconscious reactions frequently lead to regret, broken relationships, and inner chaos. Now, imagine you have the power to step into that small space, to slow your breath, calm your mind, and consciously choose your response. This space is not just about time, it is awareness. It is the sanctuary where your higher self can speak, where your reason can guide, and where your values can lead. This is freedom, not freedom from challenges, but freedom within them. Breath is your anchor in this space. A deep, intentional breath signals your nervous system to shift from a state of fight or flight into one of calm and clarity. It widens the gap between the stimulus and your response. And as this gap widens, your power to choose grows. The Stoics did not promise a life without hardship or provocation. What they offered was the discipline to meet those hardships with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that external events are neither good nor bad. They are indifferent. It is our judgment of them and how we respond that defines our experience. Cultivating this space requires practice. At first, it might feel impossible. Your mind will race, your emotions will surge, and you will want to react. But with repetition, you train your brain to pause, to observe the stimulus, to notice the impulse, and to create that gap. Over time, that gap becomes a sanctuary of peace. Living within this space means you refuse to carry every insult like a personal wound. You don't pursue every slight with anger, nor do you allow every inconvenience to steal your tranquility. Instead, you meet life with thoughtfulness, deliberation, and presence. This is the very essence of Stoic strength, the capacity to be fully present in the moment without being consumed by it, and to face the storms of life not as a helpless victim, but as the master of your inner world. Each time you choose to inhabit the space between a stimulus and your response, you reclaim your power. You build resilience and nurture peace. You affirm the truth that no external event can dictate your inner state unless you give it permission. So, the next time life pushes you, take a deep breath, find that space, and step into your freedom, because it is there, in that small gap, where the true mastery of self and the beginning of your most authentic life resides. We spend so much of our lives reacting, often unconsciously, to the endless waves of circumstance, emotion, and expectation. True mastery, however, is found in that sacred space between what happens to us and how we choose to meet it. This space is where our freedom is born. The Stoics teach us that real power is not about controlling the uncontrollable things outside of us, but about cultivating control within. It is the discipline to pause, to breathe, to observe, and then to respond. Not simply react. It is in these moments that we take back our peace, our purpose, and our very selves. Each no you speak without apology, each breath you take before replying, each time you choose to pause instead of charging forward, these are not small acts, they are declarations. They are powerful statements that your life will be guided by wisdom, not impulse, by clarity, not chaos, by strength, not surrender. So, as you move forward from this moment, remember this: your greatest power is in your response. Your truest freedom is in your ability to hold that space between stimulus and action. And your deepest peace is found not in a world without challenges, but in a mind that remains calm in the middle of them. Live deliberately, respond thoughtfully, and master yourself. Because in doing so, you don't just survive life, you become the author of a life truly worth living.